I did it right.
Yeah, well, we seem to be going on the air.
Yeah.
And it seems to be happening.
And Mom's watching, so it's good. We've got our audience. We're all set.
We're set.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm organizing my desktop, making sure everything's right.
Do that. I'll clean my glasses.
I'm going to pull up IMDb. It's the stuff that you got to do. What this is kind of like letting people in on the mechanics of behind the scenes on a show.
Right. It's kind of what we would be doing.
We'd be warming up, little chit chat, little, getting your websites organized.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to do, clearly.
So much to do. So much to do that sometimes I forget to do some of it.
Sometimes you don't want to even record your own show.
Yeah. So how was your week, buddy?
Good. Really busy. This is crunch time for me at school, where I teach and work part-time. So it's just been slamming and jamming on Zoom and it's been a lot, but it's been fun.
Okay.
I'm tired. How about you?
You saw somebody today, right? You were hanging out with
well, I just had I had a great time. Literally just 20 minutes ago, I was finishing up being a guest on a podcast called The Kings of Con, which is my buddy Rob Benedict and his friend Richard Spites. I know them both. They're both my friends, but I go back with Rob, as you know, forever. We were roommates in the 90s. And Rob is on Supernatural, and was the prophet on Supernatural, God, and actually, and I don't get to see Rob a lot because he lives on the West Coast, and we haven't been in enough contact. So he was like, "Get on the show," and so we just hung out for an hour and laughed and reminisced about ridiculous things that we used to do when we were young and crazy.
Yes,
and it was really fun.
He's a great guy too. I'll bet that I got to listen to that because he's a great guy. He did me a real solid once when my son Atticus was a huge fan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was it. That's right.
And when he found out that I knew through you the prophet, he freaked out. And Rob had lunch with us. He sat down and had a burger.
I remember. Rob's he's just the best. He's the salt of the earth, just a dear person. And so we got to catch up on a show together and laugh, and that was really fun.
Is there like a topic? What's the topic of the podcast? Is it just
Richard Spite, who he co-hosts with? Rich is an actor, but is also a director. He directs a lot of television. He directed a lot of Supernatural, and he's doing stuff now. He's been in Vancouver working. Both these cats work all the time. I mean, it's kind of horrifying.
Really? Is there somewhere I can like send them a bottle of scotch or something?
Why do you have scotch in mind?
Well, anything. I'll send them some. Oh, I could send them some of my booze.
That's what I mean. You just said, like, could I send them some scotch? I'm like, well, you could maybe do one better than that.
Better than scotch. I could send them some batch 22.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you have news on that?
Oh yeah, we've got a good looking. We've got some good looking stuff right now. If I can remember how to work my equipment.
That's a private matter for another show. That's a medical show. This is not.
There we go. That's a prototype. It's not our final, but these are the samples. We'll be Johnny Appleseeding across the country in a few weeks.
That looks great. Yeah. I mean, Matthew is now showing a picture of his packaged bottle of batch 22. Now, is that a photoshopped composite, or is that an actual photograph of a real
actual photograph of an actual bottle filled with actual batch 22?
It's such a good photograph. It looks like it's just photoshopped in by an advertising agency.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my partners, Mark, took that photograph, bought a light box, and silhouetted it for us. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're good. So, but we have, before we talk about tonight's movie, do we still have bones to pick about last week's movie?
I haven't been able to sleep very well since our last discussion, because I think it goes deeper than just a movie, Matthew. I think it goes to a philosophical, it's a way of being.
But you won me over. But you're just disappointed in me that I didn't see it, that it took convincing.
Well, I could win you over through logic, but I don't have your heart.
You'll have my heart if we sit down with a bottle of Batch 22 and watch that movie again. I will have the time of my life, because now that that's the kind of movie. I mean, I still think that that's the kind of movie you have to have experienced once and know, so that you're laughing at it as you watch it, rather than just
I somehow I don't know, because I have, there are equivalent movies that I have seen without any preamble that I fall madly in love with because they're just so goddamn crazy. I mean, that's part of what I love about movies, really, honestly, is finding those movies that are just so crazy bad,
that
should have been better, and that there's a part of me that's like really perverse, but I feel like entertainment is entertainment, right? Like if I'm engaging with the material and it's hitting me at a certain point, I don't care if it was intended or not. I think it's genius, and I want to applaud it just because it's, because the other thing is, like, half the stuff that really good filmmakers do is accidental. It just happens to be better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I there's just something about these movies that I adore.
But I do just have to say that when I first heard how much you loved that movie, this is a little bit how I felt.
Nick, I'm very disappointed.
I mean, what can I tell you?
Well, you know what? It is an amazing segue here. Is that the guy? Who says that line?
Yes, I had to do that.
So good.
Yeah. But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that later.
That's not now. That's later.
Because we have a guest here who can shed a little more light on last week's movie.
So they decide they're actually here?
They're actually here. Well, they're virtually here.
No, right. Yes.
We have a guest who will come in later and be able to shed some light on this week's movie. But we do have somebody who can shed some light on
last week's movie. That's really exciting. I can't even imagine how they're going to be able to do it, but I can't wait.
Well, I want to introduce my friend, an incredible actor, and my one-time husband, Seth Barish.
Seth.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming on and talking to us. This is great.
Have you guys ever met?
Pleasure. Yeah, I think we met maybe through Marty Moran. Is that possible?
It's totally possible. Or through Justin Barrett, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
who I also know, but I know we have run into each other before. Yeah. I can't imagine how this came to be. This is crazy.
Well, I saw, that I guess Matthew posted a meme or some kind of a notice about the black hole episode that you did.
Yeah.
And I texted him. I said, first off, I was at the premiere of that film. Sitting directly behind Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
Which was, and this was about, I think it was at, my recollection is that it was at, oh gosh, this is how long it's been since I used to live in LA and I forgot. What's the name of the place with the big towers in the middle of this, not downtown, but it's something.
Century City.
That's it, Century City. And I feel like the premiere might have been there. And what happened is a friend of mine went to Cal Arts, and Cal Arts had done a lot of the animation for the film. So they needed seat fillers. So my friend said, "Hey, do you want to see the premiere of Black Hole?" I was like, "Sure." And then I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting literally directly behind Ronald Reagan. And I remember thinking, this was it was like 6 weeks before the election or so. And it was really clear he was probably going to be elected. And I was not a fan. And I remember thinking, if I was a different kind of person, I literally could change history right now. And I didn't. But that has nothing to do with what I wanted to talk to you about, because what I wanted to talk to you about had to do with Maximilian Schell. And I had the most crazy, I just have the most crazy Maximilian Schell story that I happily will tell anywhere. It's just,
well, bring it.
I can't. I'm so excited. Because this performance blew my mind. This movie blew my mind, and I've not been able. I saw it as a kid. Saw it again this last week, and I can't stop thinking about it. I can't.
There's one moment in his performance that when he smacks his head,
yeah,
a couple of times, like just starts hitting his own head. It's
Well, oh my God. Please. Well, okay. So first of all, I didn't know this about Maximilian Schell, but I don't even know how to get into this. I'll say this: I directed a play that ran off Broadway in the mid '90s called Old Wicked Songs, and we ended up doing a tour, and one of the stops was the Geffen Playhouse in Westwood. And at the time, the Geffen Playhouse was run by Gil Cates, who was most known for being the director and producer of the Oscars every year. Did you guys know Gil Cates?
Yeah.
I don't know if I did, but
I mean, Gil was like, my experience with Gil, he was like a really, like kind of a Mitch. He was just like a really nice guy, and and that was my interaction with him. And LA being LA, was when they produced a show, it was a different protocol. It was very sort of Hollywood protocol. They would like, instead of just coming to the director and saying hey, who do you want to be in it and stuff like that, it was more like, well, this is our list of, and it was the list of celebrities that where the first name is always Meryl Streep, and so in this case the play was a two-hander, and one of the parts was for an old Austrian piano player, and
he's going to come into that audition. He's coming because
he was on Gil's list. He was number one. He said, "How do you feel about Maximilian Schell?" And I said, "Well, gee, I've never met him, and he's an actor of quite some renown, and I'm sure seems like he should be in the running and considered." And Gil said, "Yeah, well, we have to go meet him." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Yeah, so we'll just go meet him at his house." Said,
was he considered? Was that note of concern in his voice at that time, or was that something you're saying now?
There was a little bit of awareness. It was like, yeah, I went with this, but I don't know what it is. So we're driving there, and Gil's driving me in his whatever he had, a BMW or something, and we're he's driving up there, and he goes, "Yeah, so I don't know Max really well, but he's an interesting guy, I take it, but we'll just see how this goes." Okay. So we get to this house up in one of the canyons, and we're just kind of going there, and the door opens, and out walks Maximilian Schell, and he was significantly older man than I had remembered, but that seemed appropriate. And he just sort of walked out, and he just kind of was looking sort of not at anybody, at just sort of kind of the ground, just kind of like, he goes, "I don't know, it's coming." And so, okay. So we go into his house, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll see it." And he's got this like living room. And so we sit down in this living room, and in the living room are me and Gil Cates, Maximilian Schell, and two of his managers. And then there's also a housekeeper who's coming in. There's like Austrian tarts everywhere. Like they put up like this huge buffet, and it's clearly like for us. And so we're like, wow, this is wonderful. This is great. And everything. And so we're talking, small talk. And about 10 minutes or so into it, he just kind of looks up in this sort of spacey way, and he's not saying anything, and he just sort of gets up and walks out of the room. And so we're like going, okay, well, and we just talk with the managers a little bit, and we wait for him to come back, and he's not coming back. So we're sitting there, we're talking, and about 15 minutes later, we start hearing this like music that come on, and it's a piano concerto. And he comes back in the room after about 5 minutes after that, and he's just sort of again looking sort of spacey and looking around, and he says, "Yeah, you like the music?" And I'm like, yeah, it's perfectly perfect. He goes, "Yeah, it's me. And I said, "Did you say it's you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he's like a concert pianist. Like he's playing with an orchestra and everything. We're like, wow, and that's amazing. And he goes, yeah. And so we're trying. Bill Cates is talking a lot, and I'm not saying much at this point at all. And another 10 minutes goes by, and he just gets up and just walks out of the room again. And he's there's no like all the things that are being said, he's not responding to. Like Bill Cates is like blah 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 blah. Maximilian Schell is saying nothing.
Does he like wander out of the room in like mid-sentence kind of thing, or is okay, great.
It's like Brando eccentricity, right?
Fantastic.
And he just kind of walks out, and then he kind of comes in again about like 5 minutes later, and he's got a book in his hand, and he just sort of looks up at the ceiling and places this book on the coffee table in front of us, as if he hadn't done it. But it's like he's trying to down, like I'm not really here, And so there's this book, and I kind of look down at it, and he goes, yeah. So I start looking at this book, and it's a book about Maximilian Schell. Apparently, in Austria, he's huge. They have a parade every year in his honor. And there's this like picture after picture of him doing these things. And there's this production of a show called Everyman they do there that has an audience size of 10,000 people, single audience. And there's this shot from like a, I don't know, helicopter or whatever, of like just all these people and this one guy, just standing there gesturing.
Wow.
And I go, is this you? And he goes, yeah. And it becomes clear. He just like every 5-10 minutes, he goes away, comes back and drops us a little gift. And it's like, he's showing off. And we're like, okay, he doesn't have to do any of it. So like every time, because we're like, wow, that's amazing, and it's like he does this, he does that, he does this, and
wow.
So now we're about 45 minutes in, maybe an hour in, and he still hasn't said anything other than just dropping off these little kind of cat gifts and saying his little thing, and all of a sudden Gil says, "Well, anyway, Max, so you know why we're here," and because I guess they had already talked schedule and everything. And he says, this is the first time he actually talks directly addressing the issue at hand, which is, does he want to do this play? And he goes, yeah. I don't do theater anymore. And Joe Cates is like, gosh, I'm really confused because, we've been talking schedule with everybody here for like weeks, and he goes, yeah, no, I'm past it. And so we're like, you're past it. He goes, okay. And so this is all of a sudden I take this as my cue. So I said, oh, I hear that. Gee, I'm curious. How come? And he goes, yeah, it's theaters, it's for a younger man's game, and I just I've outgrown it, and so,
wow.
Well, like this, and then he leaves again, and so Gil Cates turns to his managers and goes, "Guys, can you just help me out? This is going awfully. Is this horrible?" And they look over at us and they're like, "You're doing great."
Oh my God, this is the farthest anyone's ever gotten.
And so he sits there and he just comes back and like I'm saying like, so did you enjoy the play and stuff like that? And there's just not much coming back. And like finally, after an hour of just awkward nothing, we kind of say, well, okay, well, we'll just Thanks for all the time and everything.
And the strudel.
And the strudel. And then we're walking out, and Maximilian so all of a sudden turns to me, grabs my hand with some force, and goes, "I very much look forward to working with you."
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I'm going,
wow,
this is so strange. And of course, we never heard from them again.
Oh my God.
So he just paraded, knowing full well he wasn't going to do theater, not just your play, but he just wasn't going to do theater. But he couldn't. It's so amazing. What there's.
And I couldn't. I mean, I have to say, I was stunned at when I say he was a concert level. I'm a professional pianist. He was a concert pianist. I mean, he was playing a piano concerto that there's no way in hell I could play. And
amazing.
I was like, holy shit. And I mean, I had no idea that this guy was this big of a thing in his world.
Right.
Here he is in America.
It must be difficult to be that level in your own country.
Yeah.
And be in a country. I mean, he was fairly celebrated here, but like nothing remotely like what he had in Austria. It must be very hard to try to explain to people, you know, I'm really a big deal. And people say this, but I actually really am playing to 10,000 people. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
And there's something like this weird mixture of pathetic, but also really endearing about him. You know, he really wanted our approval, just like, you know, you're amazing. You know,
yeah.
He just kept saying, it's like, wow, you are amazing.
Well, the only thing I have to say to that is mein Gott.
Mein Gott.
Yeah.
So, wow.
So when I say I'm in the black hole, I think, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's pretty weird. That's a pretty out there performance.
How many years after? Black Hole was 79. So when did you meet him?
97.
Oh, okay. So 15 to 18 years later.
Yeah,
I guess. And do you remember his performance in the black hole?
Yeah, I remember just thinking the whole thing, you know, I didn't get to hear what all you guys thought of the film. I remember thinking, this is one of those things where it feels like it's right on the edge of comically bad. Like things are so.
I think it shoots past that edge in like an Evel Knievel launch
I was
off
trying
of the lip of the cliff. Yeah,
I had to say that. And I remember watching it and going like that. I can't even imagine what was going on that set.
You've hit exactly why I'm obsessed with the movie and why I'm obsessed with a certain kind of, I don't even want to call it terrible movie because I derive so much pleasure, like genuine pleasure out of it. Not like in a ha, they made a crappy movie. But I mean, like,
I have to interrupt for 1 second just because another guest just joined us in the green room. And he may think when we're talking about this crappy movie that we're talking about his movie, and we're not. We're still talking about the movie we watched last week, which was The Black Hole.
We're doing a sci-fi run here.
We haven't gotten to the good movie yet. So, but I didn't want him to come in the middle of this conversation and hear crappy movie.
They're both great, wonderful movies in different ways.
Yes.
Black Hole is wonderful, though. Seth, I really urge you I urge you in this time of national crisis to spend a couple hours watching this film. It's available on Amazon Prime, and I think you should do it.
Yeah. Especially now that marijuana is legal in New York, you should really stock up, enjoy, and then watch the movie.
I'm working on a black hole strain right now. In fact, it's really something. Do you enjoy? Somebody needs to come on. I'm going to sit here chatting away.
Yeah, we could talk about the black hole again for another hour.
We have something else much better to discuss
because we have another movie that interestingly enough, you know, there's somebody who's been a guest on this show before, and he makes an appearance in this movie. I speak of none other than Jim Murtaugh, who shows up again in that's not Jim Murtaugh. Oh my God, that's Al Berry, but it looks like Jim
terrible.
Murtaugh. I know,
terrible.
I shouldn't have done that.
Jim is a very handsome, healthy.
That we've He's been in so many of the movies we've talked about. That,
accidentally, it's true. He's in a lot of that period. We cover a lot of like 80s, like early 90s movies, and he shows up in those.
The Howling, what was it? The Howling and Dave, right?
Dave, yeah, I think
Who
so.
did he play in Dave?
I can't remember. I don't remember
Played was it Dave? No, was it Dave? He played. No, it's in the paper where he. Not the paper. Well, he played.
I don't know. You can't cut this out of the show, unfortunately. You've really done it. He's my dear friend who I love, and his work is great. I just can't. What show? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Sorry.
He was a reporter in some movie.
He's great, and he's great in everything. And if all we talked about was The Howling, that would have been fine, because that's great.
But this week's movie,
The
Last Starfighter.
The Last Starfighter,
1984.
Have you seen The Last Starfighter, Seth?
Oh yes, I certainly did. I have a dear friend who played the role.
The titular role.
The titular role.
So were you friends when he made the film?
Yeah. He'll remember better than I. But we went to UCLA together, and it was it was certainly a big deal when we all knew. It's like, oh my God, Lance got this job. It's incredible. I mean, Lance was working already a lot.
Right. Because he was like 24 or something when he made this, I guess.
He'll have to. Well, we must be I don't know. I don't know what year it was exactly.
Well, maybe we can find out.
We can probably find out.
We can find out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's bring him on. He's in the green room.
He probably has other things to do. He'd probably like to get this over with.
Other things to do. He's got dinner to make.
Yeah.
So here he is. Hey there.
Hey guys.
Hi, Lance.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Of course. I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather. I got a little COVID reaction, so had my
to the vaccine, not the
good. Well,
that's
that's a good reason to not feel so great. So
yeah.
Congratulations.
It's good. It's good to see you guys.
Lance, how old were you when you did Last Starfighter?
Well, we did it in '83. We shot it in '83. Can you hear me? Because I'm trying to be a little quiet.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, we shot it in '83 and like springtime of '83, but it took such a long time to put it together that it wasn't out until summer of '84. And actually, that's when I went to New York. That first 6 months of 1984, I basically, half the time I slept on your floor.
Okay.
Too, so
there was a whole lag of time between us shooting it and the movie actually coming out, and I did a whole bunch of stuff, including I lived in New York for like 6 months, and I just
were you doing theater?
It came out and came and went.
Theater
that's
okay.
Actually, you know what? I didn't do much theater in New York. That's what's funny. I kind of went out there to try to. Because I didn't have any, I had good acting teachers in like high school, but when I got to college, it was like, I didn't think the teachers were any good. And so I thought, well, you got to go to New York to be a better actor. So that's what I did. After I shot that movie, I didn't want to like suck as an actor when it's like, okay, you're in this big movie. No, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I watched that film and I love your performance in that film.
Oh, thanks.
And one of the things I really love about it, and this is before I knew that Seth knew you, and before you were going to be coming on, I was writing down in my notes that what I love about it is you never oversell. There's never, when all the crazy abduction stuff is going on, you go to this emotional place that I feel like I would go if that was happening, which was like, just like, whoa, what the hell's there's not like, hey, what? Oh, we're this, there's not all this bullshit that people do to show, oh, I'm surprised and terrified. It's just a little bit of shock and awe and calm. And I loved it.
Well, part of that is it's actually in the script. I mean, there's clues in the script for that. But I just realized, there's no reason to do, a recap of Star Wars. This is a whole totally different movie, a totally different type of movie. So I thought, okay, what if this really happened to somebody? Like, so I was always trying to maintain the point of view as like, this is not really supposed to happen. A lot of fantasy movies, they just go and they buy into the fantasy and that's it. But I felt like there was a value in kind of keeping that tension of like, don't. I just felt like it was funnier if it wasn't a fantasy. It was
it's absolutely true, Lance. I gotta say, I love your performance in this movie too, and it was actually, it's funny because I saw it. I guess I was, it came out in '84. You say so? I was a junior in high school, but I was kind of young for being a junior, so I was 14, maybe 15 when I saw it, and your performance really made it in kind of a big impression on me at the time. And I felt like, and I hadn't seen the movie in a while. And I felt like, for some reason, I felt like you were in 30, like 10 of these movies, or that there was like a lot more to this world because of the fact that you took it seriously. And as a fan of the genre when I was younger, and I still am, I really appreciated how you delivered a realistic portrayal of somebody going through this that you didn't see very often, and so bravo on that.
That's what I like. It's like that's what I like in other performers. So it's
at that age though, it was like it was good on you to recognize it and not just recognize it, but to really be able to do it. I mean that was your first big role. Was that your first starting?
Yeah.
Thing?
I mean, I had a pretty big part in a horror movie, but that was like a slasher movie that I thought
Halloween 2
about acting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love Halloween 2. Also,
love Halloween 2. So it's, I sort of misjudged how much people would love that movie.
Which movie?
Halloween 2.
When I was at the premiere of Halloween 2 with Lance, and I'm a scare wimp. I can't see any of that shit. And I was like, I don't know if you remember this, Lance. I was like, you got to tell me where all the she was like, in 5 seconds. I was like, okay.
I don't remember that.
Is that where you met Nick Castle? Is that where that relation
Well, you know what's interesting about that? I didn't find this out until watching the special features made 20 years later on the film. Is that Nick is good friends with John Carpenter,
right?
And he had just done Escape from New York right before we did Halloween 2, and Nick, of course, wrote Escape from New York, and he was in the editing room with John, and John was a producer. He didn't direct it, but he produced it, and he did some editing and stuff, and a lot of the editing. Nick was like, "Oh wait, who's that guy? Who's that like tall, skinny guy?" Because I looked really young when I was 20. Whatever. When I was 21 years old, I looked really, really young. I was playing basically my own age in Halloween 2, but I always played high school kids when I was in my 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
You could still do that.
Yes, I think so. But anyway, so Nick sort of saw me in that and saw me on the footage. And then I get a call, come in and audition, and everybody auditioned for this movie. So I think they were looking for a somewhat unknown. There were people in that group. It was Anthony Edwards and Eric Stoltz and a bunch of other people. But there was a final callback 2 months after the original callback, which I thought I had completely killed. I mean, I thought I did really well, but I never heard from them. So I kind of thought it was over. But then they called back and it was like, okay, now you're doing the part. And that's when I met Kathy, and I read with her, and there was a couple other actresses. It was the old ways where there was nobody's on tape, and you just go into this room with all these people, and they go through the scene a bunch of times. And I have to say, I liked the script because I liked the tone of, I thought it was kind of smart and kind of funny and it just had this weird, because it didn't take itself quite so seriously, you could still keep one foot in reality, and I just liked John's writing style, I mean, I just really liked a lot of the things that happened, and it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you guys know that, I'm sure you know this, you've studied this, but in the early 80s, all those movies were a weird combination. A lot of them were not serious science fiction movies. They were like tongue-in-cheek, goofball, Earth Girls Are Easy, kind of, goofy science fiction. It wasn't like Andromeda Strain or 2001 or whatever. It was kind of, goofy stuff. And then out of that came, Bill and Ted and, all these things. But and Fred Dekker and Ethan Wiley were actually, they were the original guys. And this kind of reminded me of an Ethan Wiley script. Last Starfighter reminded me kind of an Ethan Wiley script.
Which script?
I just used to read his scripts all the time. So he did House, and then Fred did like Monsters.
House is great. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And just that sensibility was sort of, that it was sort of.
Well, it's kind of it's kind of inside, It's like it seems to be like for fans of it, built by fans of it,
Yeah. Well, we went to school with all these guys, and that's a really good description. They were complete film geeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They a bunch of these writers that became like a lot of them became like some of the biggest writers in Hollywood, and they were all members of the UCLA Comedy Club. I used to play piano for the comedy club.
Right.
And they would, they lived together in this house, and they called themselves the Pad of Guys. And
O Guys.
Pad O Guys. Pad O Guys.
Yeah.
And this is before they had the internet or anything. They actually had a newsletter that was a printed newsletter that they somehow printed, and it was a monthly kind of a thing, I think, that, what's up with the Pad of Guys kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And they had this whole network where they would give each other work. In other words, it was that typical kind of Hollywood mill where somebody would be hired as a writer, and then as the film was getting developed, they'd be let go, and they'd say, well, my friend so-and-so, and the people that were in this group, it was Shane Black, who did all the Lethal Weapon series, right? Marvels, and Ed didn't live in the Pad of Guys, did he?
He didn't live in the Pad. He just knew those guys.
Ed Solomon, who also was part of that comedy club and everything, and he's
Ed actually created the comedy club. Ed sort of steamrolled the comedy club.
That's right.
At age 18, because Ed was the reason I went to UCLA. I went to high school with Ed, and we just drove down. And he's like, I'm going down to UCLA. It's 400 miles away. I'm going down to UCLA this afternoon. You want to come? Okay. So that's when I decided I was going to go to college.
But anyway, all these writers that were getting each other work, they lived together, and they were complete film geeks. So they ended up writing a lot of these. I don't know. I would describe it as kind of like they all had like this kind of tongue-in-cheek, poking fun at filmmaking thing going on.
Yeah, it was Greg Wyden was one of them. Greg Wyden and Greg Pruss and Ryan Rowe and Robert Renaud. All these people, the varying degrees of like big dealness. Fred made a lot of pretty good movies. Fred had a pretty good run there for a while.
Yeah. What's interesting though is that they may have come out of the comedy club and all of that, but this is classic hero's journey stuff too.
Yeah.
In this film. I mean, almost following the chart of the 12 steps of the hero's journey in it, which is fascinating to me.
It truly is. I mean, there's so many it's such an homage to that form and to what Spielberg and Lucas had kind of created in a way, but it doesn't rip it off. It's like, it kind of reminded me of a J.J. Abrams movie in a way, like that it was paying homage to this form that had been created before. And it really, truly loved it. I mean, the proof to me is like, this was a movie I could have watched if there was no starfighting in it. If it was called Dude Who Lives at the Trailer Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was about you and your girlfriend and just trying to get out of the town. I would have watched that cast and that director do that movie for 2 hours. So, I mean, that's pretty remarkable for a tongue-in-cheek kind of like teen designed sci-fi movie at that time. It was really cool, and you spent a lot of time there establishing it. It's a slow burn. Like you really get to know people, and it's not ironic. It's actual affection for them, which I was surprised at. Also, I got to say, what really touched me too was the relationship with your little brother. Like, that is a key thing about that movie, and he's so great too.
Yeah.
And he has killer lines. Like, he has some of the funniest lines in this thing.
Who is the actor?
His name's Chris Hebert.
Chris Hebert?
Hebert, Hebert, like Herbert, but without the first R.
He's terrific in it. And
yeah,
there's actually two interesting tie-ins to another sci-fi franchise that when I was watching the film, one of the older actors, the grandmother, looked, oh my goodness.
Sorry.
That's okay. The grandmother looked familiar to me. I kept thinking, that old lady looks familiar to me. And she is one of the keepers of the zoo in the original pilot episode of Star Trek that became the Cage episode.
Yeah.
She's one of the keepers of
the people with the big.
Yeah, she's one of the keepers of Christopher Pike.
Interesting.
In that episode that got turned into episode 2 or 3.
Was she the one who got strangled?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because there was one where like at the end, he in his act of defiance, he strangles the one of
the big-headed people,
like monsters and stuff like that.
And then Will Wheaton has a tiny part as your brother's friend.
Right.
He ends up not having any lines. His lines got cut out, but Will Wheaton from Next Generation.
That's right.
People have brought that up a lot, and I keep looking for him, and I never see him in the cut. Like I see like him from the neck down or something.
Yeah, maybe we see his feet.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
So, and also wondering, like, you worked with Joseph Sargent on Halloween 2, right? He did Halloween 2 or Jaws the Revenge?
Jaws the Revenge.
Okay. Lance.
Yes.
You were in a trifecta of absolutely stunning movies of this period. It doesn't even need to be said, but it should be said. And so Joseph Sargent, I wonder if Joseph Sargent, who directed Star Trek, directed that episode of Star Trek.
Right. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. Yeah, Joe did the first pilot. He did the pilot of the 66, 67
of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So
he directed
the Cage.
Whatever he said, he directed the pilot, the very first.
I can look that up right now.
Yeah,
where Christopher Pike was the captain, and Nigel Barrett was number 1.
That's right.
Majel Barrett, which they then had to recut into a episode 2 or 3 of the eventual series.
Right, the Menagerie.
Yeah,
which was my favorite episode of all of Star Trek.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Star Trek, the original series, 1 episode. Well, according to IMDb, it was not that episode. It was an episode, and they're always right. IMDb is always correct.
Where No Man Has Gone Before?
Star Trek, what was this one called?
Because if it was Where No Man Has Gone Before, that's
the Carbonite Maneuver.
The Carbonite Maneuver.
Seth, we're in your wheelhouse right now.
I am. You are in my wheelhouse.
Great.
Wow,
that's a good episode.
Do you have them all on Blu-ray, or do you watch them on Netflix?
No, I watched them enough. I never need to watch them again.
Have you've seen them redigitized though? Yeah.
I think I've seen an episode or 2 redigitized. Yeah.
Because they're pretty stunning. I mean, they did I think an incredible job on cleaning up the prints and making them 4K, and they're beautiful. Wow. They're beautiful.
Now, Lance, you have another project that went on for years and years and years. That was a real labor of love for you, right? The $1 Million Quartet.
Yeah. It wasn't really a labor of love as much as it was something that I expected to. We expected to go on the road for like 6 months and go to Minneapolis and Chicago and Denver and Philadelphia, and we expected to just kind of like take it on the road because it's so easy to travel. There's 8 people in the cast, 6 musicians. The musicians are the orchestra. They all play their own instruments. And I played Johnny Cash, and it was just kind of like the cheap, the cheap sort of, like if you saw the movie Walk the Line, there's like hired, jump in the car and the whole guys, drive all night and go to the next gig. And I kind of expected to sort of do that. But instead, we did a sit down in Chicago that lasted 7 years. I was only in a year and a half of it, but we did a sit down in Chicago, and then we it was very strange. We went up to New York to do the 2009 Grammys. They needed somebody to play during the commercial breaks. They used to have some guys come on and say some stuff and talk about their theater company. Paul Newman talking about his company in Ohio and all that stuff. And they just wheeled us out, and we just, did a whole lot of shaking going on, and whatever, blue suede shoes.
You said the Grammys was the Tonys, yeah?
Tonys, right? The Tonys, right? Sorry. So it was very strange. We were like, okay, we'll go do that, And then some producer was like, "Why are you guys not in New York?" And we were like, "Well, I don't know. What have you got in mind?"
Right.
So then we got a gig like that following fall.
Well, you guys were amazing. I watched there's a great clip of y'all on Letterman.
Yeah.
And it's just, you guys are burning it up.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I gotta see this.
Really fun. It was really fun.
You played Johnny Cash in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I was 50 and I played Johnny Cash at 23. So luckily, John looks pretty worn at 23.
It's true. He did have some mileage there under his belt.
Yeah. But it was
a great guitar player, and we played a lot of music over the years.
Lance, have you been in bands and stuff, like other bands through your life? Or?
I have, actually, and I did not expect to be in any bands. I've always liked the idea of being in a band, but I was always a better actor than I was a musician. And but then I was also in this band. I was in the Foreman. Remember the Foreman? Kenny Rhodes and Roy Zimmerman and those guys, Andy Corwin and Doug. I was in a folk
spoof of a folk group.
Yeah, it's like a spoof of a sort of folk revival, but we did all this like hardcore left-wing satire, but all like in purple ties and suits and goofy, And it's just pretty funny. I mean, it was kind of meta. It was kind of like you had to sort of figure out the joke, and once you got the joke, it's all pretty funny. But I played guitar and banjo in that band. That was in the late 1900s. In the late 1900s.
Late 1900s, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I posted the link to that Letterman clip in the chat, and I'll post it in the comments to YouTube and in the description on when we drop this as a podcast, so that people can go watch that clip, because it's really
great.
It's really something.
It was so good, and Dave was super nice to us. He was so happy that we were there, and he was very complimentary, and it was really fun. He was kind of like, "This is really fun."
Yeah, you can tell they're having a good time, because Paul comes over and starts fanning Jerry Lee Lewis, fanning him to cool him off.
If he's interacting with them, then it's going well for sure. Yeah. And you caught Dave on a good day too.
Yeah, because Tony
I did that show a bunch of times.
Him on some bad days.
That ain't no fun when he's not having a good time.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the actual length of that play, the first rehearsal I think was in 2004, and so we had been workshopping it for 2 years before we did it in Seattle, and then we did it in Daytona Beach, and then we did it in Seattle. And then the next year we did it in Chicago, and then we just went from there.
Well,
all in all, it was like an 8-year commitment. And other people stayed with the show, and there was like 4 tours and everything. And I didn't do the tours because I had a 8-year-old son, and I didn't want to be like totally. If I was 25 years old, I'd be like, sign me up for the tour. You
didn't want to be like Johnny Cash.
I didn't want to be like Johnny Cash.
Yeah. I have to ask a question of the 2 of your old friends, and I know Seth said you went to some screenings of movies that Lance was in, and I'm sure you both saw each other's stuff. But I want to know, after the screening of The Last Starfighter, did you go to the opening and did you go to a diner late afterwards? And what did you say to each other after seeing the film?
I don't think that I was at the premiere of Last Starfighter.
Yeah, because you were in New York.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you were in New York. I was in New Mexico, actually. I lied about not getting any acting work in New York. I got a regional play of this play in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I was doing a play when the movie came out, when the premiere happened and when the movie came out. So I would get on a plane in Albuquerque and I'd fly out for 18 hours. I'd go to the premiere and I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I had to be back for rehearsal.
Wow.
And they wouldn't like cut me a break, and
What was the play you were doing?
very, very ridiculous play. It was called Ducks in a Row, and it was about a Depression era Texas family, Oklahoma family. But that's where I met. That's why I met Don Meredith, and when I ultimately met Roger Miller, which was my favorite celebrity experiences, jamming with Roger Miller.
Wow. King of the Road.
King of the Road. Yeah, he's
okay.
Wow.
So what did you think of the movie when you saw it for the first time, Lance?
When it came out, I sadly had seen a rough cut when I did all my ADR, and so much was missing. It was all in black and white. There was no sound. There was no music, and this was way before the effects were ready. So they would just cut to effects here, and you see a blank screen. It would say effects here. So I just, I was one of those people that had to have every single moment be true. I was just a maniac about that. And I maybe was a little too serious about it, but I really wanted to make sure that it was really the best it could be. And I'll tell you the truth, I was a little concerned that they didn't see the movie the way you guys did. They saw the movie as sort of a generic sort of cereal box, space and space invader.
When you say they, that you're talking about the studio or the
the guys that they didn't know how to market it because there'd been anything like this. And Star Wars was marketed in such a unique way. Star Wars, they went to conventions and just got the buzz going. And Star Wars was marketed by the fact that everybody just, all these people knew about it before it came out, and they were like packing the lines. So people were like, why is everybody in line for Star Wars? We better get in line too, and that's what happened. So they didn't really know, they didn't have that kind of out of the box promotion. They just were like, well, what do we do? It's sort of like a comic book, and it's sort of like
Did Industrial Light and Magic do your special effects? The same people?
No, it was called Digital Productions. It was up in San Jose, which is funny because that's where I'm from. I'm from Saratoga, and if you see the special features, they go into it, but it was basically a brand new technology that no one had ever done before. They did a little bit of it in Tron, but they didn't do 3D stuff. So this was the first time we'd ever done real 3D special effects, and they had to sort of take a chance on this little movie that had no real big stars in it other than Preston. And they totally had to roll the dice, that the producers had fucking balls of steel. They totally had to roll the dice and hope that this was going to work because, computer generated imagery was not that developed at all.
Right.
It was way, even after we did our movie, it was another 6 or 7 years before they really applied it. It was really cost effective to apply it to other movies. They were still doing models and their team. Like the great Jaws: The Revenge special effects, as we all know, but it benefited greatly from some CGI. So it was kind of premature. So John was sort of prescient, the writer. In two different ways. He was prescient in sort of understanding the video game. I want to be a hero, so I'm going to play a video game, and the special effects. Yeah, digital special effects. Because ILM, they were all doing models. Those guys were doing models. All the Star Wars were done. As far as I knew, they were.
I was a big fan. I was a genre fan back then as well, and it was notable. I remember walking out of the theater being like, "What the hell? This is a completely new thing." It was really pretty mind blowing, and it's weird that it's unfortunate. I think that really like that James Cameron gets the credit for like putting the first CGI and stuff when there was so much of it in the movie too. There's a lot of it in Last Starfighter. I mean, it wasn't like they just had a few shots that they pulled together. I mean, it has.
Oh, go ahead.
You look at it now, and CGI has come so much further. It does look like an animatic sometimes of like a test run of what the effects could be.
Yeah.
But back then, when in the theater, it was really cool looking.
We've never seen anything like that before.
It was. I mean, this is how much on the forefront. This story is kind of semi-apocryphal. So, Lance, I hope it's okay if I bring it up. But it's semi-apocryphal. Lance, and actually, I have a question before I even get into this. I noticed we were talking. I was just in my head going through all the films you did. And I feel like costumers must have costumed around you because you had such a specific thing you always wore. In real life, Lance wore blue jeans, but not only that, he wore like the same pair of blue jeans that when they'd get a tear, he'd put a patch on, and then if it tore around the patch, he'd put another patch on. And so by the time as years went by, he just was like all patch, you know. But your look was kind of like I feel like your look in life was blue jeans and a kind of plaid shirt, right?
Yes, that is kind of what I wore from the time I was a bike in high school to, I don't know, most of my life.
And it feels like, I mean, I'm thinking in my head, Last Starfighter and Lou Grant and like all these they just costumed you that way.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that, I mean, this may come as a surprise, but like I used to be when I did plays in high school, I used to be totally obsessed with the costumes. Like, I mean, not like Corky St. Clair, but like I was just like, I got a great idea for this. You know, we're gonna do this. And I got some shit at home. You know, I used to go to the thrift store and buy like ruffled tuxedo shirts for like $4. And I used to make stuff. And I used to always have these things when I was in high school. And I was like Joe Costume, you know, so often people would just use stuff that I had for plays. Like Dave used my Levi jacket for a play that we did, and you know, it was just like I just was like, no, you got to be in that. Nope.
So. And then it just became you rented your clothes to the studio. I mean, it was you were the first guy to do it.
They bought them, you know, but I did end up getting them because they didn't fit anybody else. I wore like 30 40s. I wore 30 waist and 40 length.
Wow.
Because I was a skinny.
How tall are you?
I'm only, I'm 6'2" now, but I used to be 6'3".
Okay.
But when I was younger, I was like literally all legs. And so that's why like Preston's like 5'9". And so there's this picture of me with my legs like about 4 feet apart.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, you know, looking at him very, you know, very, very, and I have this ridiculous stance, and it's because they couldn't get me in frame, you know? Because I was so much taller than everybody else. And it didn't matter that if I was like, say, taller than Kathy, you know, but they didn't want me to be like that much taller than Centauri. So so the set photographer, and I wish I still had this picture because then I could have shown that to you. The guy actually took a still of me doing that. Like it wasn't into the fact that
I wear 30 40s too, but the other way around.
That's funny. Well, now I'm like 36. So, you know, my son is in that realm now. But anyway,
with this jeans thing is so for the special effects they use what's it called, a chroma key? Is that what that thing's called? The thing that
I mean, basically they told me ahead of time that they would give me They started showing me all these things. Well, here's going to be your costume. And I'd be like orange cords and like a green polo shirt, you know? And I was like, this guy lives up in the mountains in the trailer park. I mean, he probably wears like a work shirt and blue jeans and like boots and stuff. Wouldn't he do that? I mean, so they said, no, we can't do that because you can't wear blue. And I wear blue. So I was like, that's my thing. You know, I wear blue. So I was like, well, wait, why don't I wear blue? They said, because we're doing it against blue screen. We're doing all the effects stuff and blue screen, and everything that is blue is going to be that color. And I was like, well, that's no good. And so I talked to Nick. I still just kind of, I think I sort of wheeled and dealed. And I talked to Nick and I said, "Hey, Nick, they tell me I can't wear blue jeans. Don't you think?" He's like, "Yeah, you should totally wear blue jeans." He didn't. I don't know if he knew that that's what they were doing. So in the final one of the final scenes, I actually wasn't wearing blue in that scene, but I was carrying a blue. It was a continuity thing. I was carrying a blue bunch of. I was in my like uniform and I was carrying like my blue jeans, my shirt. So it would have been weird. So all the guys come up, all the special effects guys. These are like the biggest guys in the business, John Whitney, Ron Cobb, and all these guys. And they're like, "Oh God, we're up against it here. We gotta shoot. We can't shoot this. It's not blue screen. It's we can't use blue screen." And one of the lighting guys in the corner, he's sort of sitting there. He's like manning his lights, and he just kind of chimes up. He goes, "Well, it's just a gel. You could just change the gel, because the screen was a projection. The screen was like a psych." So he's like, "Well, just change the gel, make it whatever color you want." I'm like, there you see. Right. And he goes, and I go, "What? Let's do something that like nobody wear. Like nobody wears chartreuse, unless they're being ironic. Nobody wears chartreuse, Right. So okay, next thing you know, they put up this green screen, and it's like, okay, great, we ready to go? Okay, rock and roll. They say, yeah, we'll just dial out green instead. And I sort of thought they would just do that. They would do it orange, they would do yellow, they would do whatever color that it was appropriate, So turns out, so I did that, totally forgot about it. 20 years later, I'm doing a movie in Australia. It was like a Disney Channel movie where I played a goofy alien or something. And I came to the set early, and it was weird. It was the only time that I was sort of not invited. I don't know if I was not invited, but I just wasn't required, but I got there early. And I was looking, and there's this big, huge green screen, and these guys were hanging this guy from something, and he was doing something. And I go to the director, I go, "How long have they been doing green screen?" And he goes, since like the mid 80s, they've been doing it all the time.
Wow.
Oh, did he freeze up?
Lance froze.
Turns out
back. There he is.
You're back.
You're back.
So
I actually did some research because I didn't want to be a douchebag, but and I think they, in the early years of doing that, like with the Errol Flynn movies back in the late 40s and early 50s and stuff, they would do color and they would have, oceans in the background. And they experimented with all different kinds of colors. It's just they stuck with blue because it was better for the contrast to your skin if you're a white person.
That's interesting because there's so many like movie stars are famous for their blue eyes. I wonder if that ever got in the way. I guess it wasn't really close up some people most of the time, but yeah.
The whole point of this type of technology was that they could go in, like they could be in close on my eyes and pull back, and they could start close and pull out of the spaceship. So that was something they were like, wow, we can do that. It never ended up making it into the film, but that was kind of what they wanted to do because everything was artificial.
Right. Right.
So that's my story.
I have to just say, this film is also responsible for bringing a phrase into my life that has never ever left, and that is "what the shit." What the shit is? I remember laughing so hard when I heard that as a kid. It just blew my mind, and then it's been a staple ever since. So
it's so. It's like how PG was. How was PG? They had to, I'm sorry. What?
How was it working with Robert Preston?
Well, he was totally like, I think he was only 66 at the time, but I thought that was like really old because he was, he was so famous when I was when I was not even born. He was really only 66, but I was concerned that he, I didn't want to like wake him up. We used to shoot from 5 at night to like 5 in the morning, and often I'd have to like, "You want to rehearse, Bob?" And I was trying to get him to rehearse because we got like 2 takes, and so if we didn't get it, they just move on.
Whoa! Wow.
And so because the special effects ate up so much of the budget,
of course,
they had to bang through all the acting really, really quickly. And I'd done a lot of TV, but I was kind of looking forward to like, wow, I'm going to be like, Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese, to take 157, now, Bobby, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, amazing though, because that's a really, really lovely actual ensemble work in that trailer community. And the fact that y'all only had like 2 takes, everybody was really great. It wasn't forced. It didn't feel like that forced thing that you feel were like stagey and stuff. It felt like a real community.
I mean, they were really good people. Most of the people were really good people, and it comes from the top. You know, Nick and John are both really good people, and Gary, and you know, some of Gary's family was on. His brother was on it, and his dad and stuff. And they were nice people. You know, there was no weirdness because I don't know. They just Hollywood film crews are often made up of not so much art students or film students. They're just made up of guys and girls who, you know, their dad did crew work in the 50s, and then their dad did crew work in the 30s, and you know, they just live out in the valley, and they have these kind of normal lives.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
On the other hand, I did work on a movie in Canada where everybody was a film student, and that was really fun because everybody was so, you know,
right.
Interesting.
Nobody knew what to do. They were running around like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted that. We wanted it to be very, you know, wholesome and very, you know. I was listening to a lot of Bruce Springsteen back then, you know.
But I'm still curious, like, what you thought of the movie, both of you, like when it came out. So, like, did you go to the theater, Seth, and see it, and then call him up, or did you talk about it? Did you agree on it? Did you feel like, they really captured this? I mean,
I don't, you know, I think our nature, my recollection, I mean, Lance, maybe you remember differently, but I kind of feel like we just love each other. And so I find that we're very supportive of anything. When I saw Lance do the $1 Million Quartet, I mean, this is no exaggeration, but I wept through the entire thing. I did, because I just thought, he's doing it. He's like, you know, Lance, I've been playing guitar we're watching Lance play guitar, I play piano. And we've been hanging out for so long, and then all of a sudden he's up there doing his thing. And you know, to me, it's like watching, you know, my friend live a dream. And that was it. I think that was like your totally a Broadway debut for you, right?
Yeah, that's totally. We didn't expect to go. It was quite a surprise that we even did it, but it was very commercial, and we had a really good time. It was very different than any other play that I've ever done, and it was frustrating because there was a lot of sort of things that I was kind of used to people caring about, like of the script and of, you know, things not being cheesy and stuff. But it was so much fun. And I kept trying, all my like hardcore actor friends, I was like, I'm sorry, it was kind of like, and they were like, fuck you. And they were like, we had a good time. It was like, shut up. So I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah. I don't ever remember though going to anything that either of us did and kind of bitching about it in, you know, behind the scenes.
Matthew, we have to take lessons from them and their relationship. This is sad. It's a supportive people here. I don't know how to relate to that, but that's great.
Our family's more.
I'm
like,
glad you're happy for each other. That's lovely.
Our family's more like,
what are you talking about?
What were you doing up there? What were you doing? What were you thinking up there?
No, do you really do that with each other?
No, but we don't cry at each other's performances. That's for sure. I have never cried at Matthew's work, and I don't think Matthew's ever cried at well, he's probably cried, but not out of joy.
Oh, well.
I actually, I love Tony's work. I think he's a really, really underrated actor.
I love it.
What was your favorite thing? What was the favorite thing you ever did?
Me? Favorite thing that I ever did?
You were talking about it. You were talking about Anthony.
My favorite thing that I ever did, two things. The Whale. I did a production of the play The Whale at the West Coast premiere of that, where I played a 600-pound man, and that was, you know, 2 hours of makeup before the show every night, and it was pretty amazing. And Dinner with Friends in New York was my other favorite thing that I got.
Wait, do you know my friend Megan Holloway?
I have the best Megan Holloway story. Yeah, Megan came. You know the story, right?
Megan is the reason I was in $1 Million Quartet.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, Megan and I met at 7:30 one evening when she was going on to play my wife at 8. And it was and she did an amazing job. It was her New York debut. We'd never met. She was understudying a completely different production of the play. And Tony, what was your favorite theatrical experience?
Of my own? My own?
Of your own. No, what was your favorite of my work?
That's what I thought you were asking. That would have been the appropriate question.
But enough about me. What do you think of my career?
I don't know. I mean, I never really thought of that. I guess Waverly Gallery is probably the thing that comes to mind. That's like,
I did get to see that too. My wife saw it and just loved it. So, and
it's a great play.
It's a really special experience, and a big play for me personally. Just to at that time in my career, and getting to know Kenny Lonergan, the whole thing was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was an honor to be up there, doing material that was just making people weep every night. Like every night, people were just completely devastated by this play. To know that you were doing something that just had that much power, that hit people in the gut that much, is really something.
Yeah. Oh it's nice when you're really hurting the audience.
Yes. Yes. How about you, Seth? What about you?
Well, Margot at the wedding, absolutely. No,
that's where.
I thought that was a perfectly fine film.
It was a perfectly fine film, but that was where Matt and I met, and in fact, that was just one day of shooting, right? I don't remember
one miserable night.
and then we took a bus ride home together, and just kind of immediately we're like,
what the hell just happened?
Yeah, we got on well, and but no, I don't know. My favorite, I have no idea. I mean, I feel like I've done so many different things. I work both as director and actor and musician and all these kinds of things.
Let's just keep it to acting, because we can't compete with you, man. There's no, you do too much.
No, well, wait a minute. I think you do a lot. I from what I can gather,
but I don't have any success at those things. So let's just keep it to Seth, to you.
You really, what's so great about Seth is that he had a vision, and he really did it. He had a vision from back in, I don't know, 86, and you just did it. It was tough. It was hard, and it was a lot of work.
You're talking about the theater company?
Yeah.
Yeah. I started a theater company called the Barrow Group, which Lance named, actually.
Really?
We were trying to come up with a name, and it was a resident ensemble when we first started of 10 actors. And every name we came up with, everybody hated. And we had to come up with a name to incorporate. And Lance happened to be just sitting in at a meeting because he knew a bunch of us. And he goes, well, they have the Wooster Group, and you live on Barrow Street. Why don't you call it the Barrow Group? And we're like, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be giving you a call. I may be giving you a call because we've got this booze that we're starting to market, and if we don't get our trademark on our name, we're going to go back into hell again trying to come up with a new name for the booze. So
it's not. Wait, is this the Batch 22? You think?
Batch 22, but we're waiting to hear from the trademark office whether or not we have that name.
Oh,
yeah.
What kind of booze is it?
It's a grain neutral spirit infused with our own proprietary blend of herbs, spices, and botanicals.
I think that could be the title. That really long thing.
That really long thing.
That's it.
Yeah. And you
can charge a lot if you name it a really long name.
Give it a long name, but it's great to sip, and it's also amazing in a lot of different cocktails.
That's cool.
It's quite good. I recommend it highly.
Oh, wow.
I've gone through it.
You're going through it.
Well, every time we do a show, I have to take a couple of belts just to get through this, man. What are you talking
through this damn evening?
So nervous. Jesus.
Lance and I have one other story that we really should tell. Well, I'll try to tell a fast version of it. Lance can.
Because in the context of doing great work, Can't leave this show out.
Okay.
Let's wrap up with this.
So, so we did a play at the Bear Group called The Weather Outside, and Lance was brought out. He happened to, there was a part he was perfect for, and so he played the lead role in this thing. And they, at the time, we were looking for publicity, just to get anything. And because Lance had done Last Starfighter, there was interest, and so for some reason, a public access show was interested in doing publicity. And so, and at the time, so we got this, we were supposed to meet at this address. So we just showed up at this address. And I don't know how you remember, Lance. My recollection is it was like an abandoned auto parking lot or something like that. Does that?
Well, it was inside, but
ultimately,
the studio was inside. But yeah, it was just this bunker.
And so we go down. We go down this bunker, and then there's like this kind of like a little mini studio there with all these people waiting, and we're waiting. And the person who runs it, I don't remember the name of this. Do you remember the name of the show? New York, right?
It might have been, or
it's.
You'll have to tell the song. The song gives it away.
It's New York or something like that. Yeah, it's like it's New York, and it was this. So they came and they said that the lady who was the host of the show, they said, she comes at the very end and at the last minute, so don't worry, just sit and wait. So we're just sitting there and waiting, and in the waiting room are me and Lance and this guy named Irving Fields, who was a pianist, who I guess, I don't know, he played. I think he maybe played for Ivana Trump even. It was like some kind of it was some kind of thing like that. And then there was these other two women, and we didn't, get to know what they did, but we all waited. And just at if the show is supposed to go at 4, it's now like 4:10, 4:15, 4:20. And this guy, Irving Fields, goes, I can't wait. I have to go. And they're like, wait, no, Mr. Fields, please wait. And he goes, I'm sorry, I just have to go. And he leaves. And then this woman kind of scoots in, and she looks kind of like a bag lady. I mean, she's just like, like this bag lady comes in.
Yeah, black dyed hair and,
Totally. Disappears, comes back in, and they give us instructions. They're putting us in the room. They're wiring everybody up. They set us in this kind of horseshoe. So there's there's this one woman, and she's from the National Blood Bank. And then there's this other woman from a theater company called $3 Bill, which specializes in gay and lesbian. I don't know if they still exist, but they specialized in gay and lesbian theater. And then there was me, representing the Bear Group, and Lance, who they thought was a big coup that Lance was on their show, right? And so they said, just go sit there, and she's going to come in, and she's going to do the show. And we have no idea what we're in for. It's like a talk show for public access TV. So we're just kind of sitting there. And she kind of whisks in, and she starts to sing the opening number. And the opening number is they play the music of the soundtrack with her voice on it already. And then she sings on top of it. And it's this weird kind of music. I can't remember the song, but it was something like, it's New York, it's New York.
Wow.
And keep going. We were sitting here watching this thinking like, this is really funny. This is like so off the wall weird. This is funny. So she starts in with her show. And what her show is she sort of free associates with the guests and to somehow connect them to each other through her own logic that is her own weird logic. And she starts, and the first guest is this woman from the National Blood Bank. There had been this horrible crash in Long Island, and so this woman had come on to asking for blood, for people to come and donate blood. And so she's like, our first guest is so-and-so from the National Blood Bank, and what do you have to tell us? And so she says, well, we had this horrible plane crash, and we really need blood. So anybody, if you can come and donate, it would be really helpful. And she goes, okay. And she goes, our next guest is from $3 Bill, a gay and lesbian theater company. And speaking of blood, how do you make sure that the people in your family, and she starts talking about this whole thing about AIDS, and
It's 1989.
it's 1989, and
Oh no, my God.
the woman from the gay and lesbian theater company just starts this slow burn.
Oh my
She
Oh
doesn't
no,
even
my
say
God.
anything. Just sits there and goes like this. And she's going, because there's many, and she goes back to the lady. She goes, in the National Blood Bank, how do you screen for healthy blood in the weight of all the diseases that are out there? And it's like, oh my God, I can't even believe this.
Oh man.
And then she comes to me, and she has nothing to say to me. She doesn't know who the fuck. So she goes, and then we have, and she looks at this card. Sid Barrish, the Auto Group, and I say, yeah, it's a theater company. And she goes, oh, yeah. And speaking of theater companies, and she turns to Lance, and Lance beforehand had said, really, I don't want to be in on this if like you're going to make a big deal out of like my movie career, like, I really want to, this, I'm trying to give attention to the company and all this stuff. Like, don't, and she goes, and then we have right next to us, Mr. Lance Guest, the last stop. And she starts like flopping over him like this. And Lance is kind of like, yeah, I kind of like, like he's trying to get attention off of this thing. And she sort of, like gets to the next beat, and the next beat was, well, I was going to do a song with Mr. Irving Fields, but he had an appointment with Mrs. Von Trump, and I guess I'll sing it a cappella. But if everybody on the panel can sing along, and we're like, you can feel the four of us quietly making this like vow, we are not moving a muscle. We're not going to sing a damn thing.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Starts singing insanely slowly. When you're smiling,
What is going on?
And she does the whole thing, and she gets to the part, and she's like, come on, and like none of us are like saying anything, and then she gets to the part that was the instrumental, but there's no pianist, and so she just goes. And at this point, we're thinking, this is so funny, but we gotta not laugh. We're just gonna like look at the floor, and everybody's being really respectful. And she kind of winds up, and she starts to close out her show, and she's like, well, thanks to It's New York, and the producer of the show is behind that camera going like,
Oh no.
and she can tell like she's got 5 more minutes. She doesn't know what to do, I guess, so she just starts the show over.
No, stop it. She doesn't do that.
Oh no, she does, as if it never happened.
Oh,
She just goes,
fantastic.
it's New York. And she goes to the thing. We have the lady from the First National Blood Bank, and tell us what do you. Then we have $3 bills.
Wow.
And we're just sitting there going, oh my God, this is so funny, but we can't. And like it was like this weird sort of Pavlovian response. She comes to me, and then she goes, "It's Evan Barish from the bar," and then Mr. Lance. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is funny. But we're just looking at the floor. We're all looking at the floor, and she closes out the show again. And the producer is like,
Oh no.
Oh no, my God.
and we just sit there in silence. And it's like the cameras are rolling, and we're just sitting there in silence. We're looking at the floor. We're going, "Oh my God, this is so funny!" But we're not going to, we're not going to think. And about a minute to go, she just goes, and at that point, we're gone. At this point, the four of us are laughing so hard. It's like this thing. Flash forward, it's now 5 years later, 2 a.m., I'm in New York City. I get a call from a friend of mine in Connecticut. 2 a.m. wakes me up. He goes, Seth? I go, yeah. He goes, you will not believe what I'm watching right now. They ran a rerun of this thing on public access.
Oh my
Can you find a
God.
tape of this somewhere?
I've never been able to find it. I have no idea.
It sounds like it could have been Sacha Baron Cohen it sounds like it could almost have been on purpose.
Oh no, she was very clueless. She kind of came in from, where was she, Long Island or something? She kind of came in from the way out, and she lived in the city. She was just kind of.
But it just sounds like surrealism gold. It just sounds fantastic.
It was surreal. Like, it was so much that, like, I feel like if you saw it, you wouldn't believe it. And I would say it's pretty safe to say I'm not exaggerating anything in that story.
So no. This is your proudest work. You finally answered.
It's just great. And it's like in theater, you have a nightmare on stage. Seth has a great story about that, but you have this thing like, God, I'm on stage. What do I do? But it's theater because you got, there's no cut. But in, TV, maybe they cut all the time. Okay, no, forget it. Let's not. But this was not.
They just weren't doing it. They weren't going to do
it. No.
Oh my God. Please try to, we have to track that down, because now.
What's very sad is that in 15 years, you'll be talking about this show the same way on some other.
Well, my big question is, can we get her on the show? Is the point? I mean, point. Can we track her down?
I wish I could even remember her name. It's like
it was like a Fellini movie. I mean, she was. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so bizarre. It was
very fun.
Very bizarre.
Well, I'm so grateful to you for coming. We haven't even talked about Dan O'Hurley.
We can talk about Dan.
I don't want to.
We've scratched the surface of the movie. I mean, there's a chock full of.
I didn't finish my story about Preston. I would knock on the door, and he never was like, "Oh, come on, man, really?" No, he was always like, "Let's go, kid. I'm a theater actor. Let's do it."
Good for him.
He was a total badass. And
good
so,
for him.
he smoked about 4 packs a day, and he just, he always did it. He was always up for it and always, game and stuff like that. And I thought, I was very grateful to him because he didn't have to do that. He had all
sure, of course, yeah.
And I had to make sure I nailed every second of every moment, and
Who played the evil villain in that film?
Guy from San Francisco, Norman Snow. I think he's from ACT.
Oh wow,
Norman Snow. Yeah,
he has one of my favorite lines in the movie. Oh wait, you mean the young villain or one of the
the alien villain?
The Zur, the guy in the black leather suit with the big scepter.
With the scepter, right?
Yeah. The Emperor,
right? The Emperor. Yeah. The head of his army, though, has my favorite line in the movie, which is coming, because this is what is it? The line about the we can't escape. She won't answer the helm. We're locked into the moon's gravitational pull. What do we do? And right as he said it, I said, "We die." It's one of those great moments where it's coming.
He was good. He was good, but Dan O'Hurley. Is it? Yeah, it was. It's Dan O'Hurley. He has Snake as your co-pilot.
Yeah.
Who? Interesting. He'd just done Halloween 3. You had done Halloween 2. Did you talk about this? You must have come up on the set.
I was so not into horror movies, and I've made like 4 of them, and I've never been into horror movies, and it's just strange, but I don't have I'm grateful to the people that like them, especially the ones that I'm in, but I'm not a horror movie guy. Angel Heart. I thought Angel Heart was a good movie, but that's like my favorite horror movie.
So you and Dan Hurley, he just agreed not to discuss any of your prior experiences.
Oh, we didn't agree. It just didn't come up. I don't think he wanted to really.
He did. I'm sure he didn't want to talk about it.
He was, he was Duncan in the Scottish play. I was very excited about that. In the film, Orson Welles' film, he was Duncan.
Wow.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I remember hearing about like his Yeah, I know him from, like RoboCop and then this movie primarily.
Yeah. They always say it was funny because he would show up and I didn't really know what he looked like because I would get to the set late. And so I would get there late and he would leave. He'd come before me and leave after me. So it was a long time before I actually saw what he actually looked like. Kind of funny.
You were probably rude to him in the hotel lobby. Like,
no, we did everything here. I drove up to Canyon Country from like Brentwood or whatever we were, West LA. I drove every night on my little Honda Civic. Drove up to the mountains where everybody has their horses.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're vaxxed up and tired.
I'm a little woozy, so
make sure you get some rest. But this has just been such a treat to have you on.
Thank you both. Great. It was really great to talk to you both and get to meet you, Lance, and see you, Seth. Are you vaxxed up? Are you ready to go, Seth? Are you?
I've had my second vax. Second shot was April 1st, so I'll be. I'm figuring April 15th. I'm done.
Good. And Lance, was this one and done for you, or you got your second one? Or?
No, I have Moderna, so I got to do it again.
Okay.
All right. Really. Whew.
Yeah, I hear it.
Now though, you guys are like bringing me back to life. It's good.
Oh, good. Well, now we're doctors too. We're nurses, as we were talking about on the podcast before.
Anthony, have you had your two?
I haven't had one yet. I'm on the computer looking for my slot.
Are you East Coast or West Coast?
I'm in Brooklyn. Amelia and I are in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Oh wow!
But he's too young. He's not old and decrepit like us, so we qualified way ahead of him.
Yeah,
they've opened it up for us about 2 weeks ago, but we've also just been slammed with teaching. This time of month for us at Pace is really crazy. Oh, wow. So our time isn't really our own at the moment, so we can't like drop whatever just to leave to do something because there's rehearsals like one after another. And
you guys do this particular thing weekly?
Yes, we do this
every week. Yeah.
And you can see the incredible production values and preparation that go into it.
That's a completely CGI background that Matthew has.
This takes actually this room is starting to look like a warehouse because it's all the supplies for making the prototypes of the booze for this trip that I'm about to take cross country with one of my partners, Johnny Appleseeding the booze all the way across the country, introducing it to bartenders and liquor stores. Were
you, Anthony? Go ahead.
I was just saying, I used to plant grapes and make wine. I went through like a 10-year period of like everywhere I would go, I would plant grapes. I was like a Johnny Appleseed because California, you can plant grapes anywhere.
Wow.
And, we made some wine.
I'll bring you a bottle when I get back to LA. I'll be back on the West Coast in June. I'll bring you a bottle.
All right.
And then we usually try to do. Lately, we've been trying to do a thing where we swing from vine to vine, from movie to movie, where we pick the next movie. So maybe the next one should be Escape from New York.
Oh.
Can't go wrong.
Right,
but I know. I mean, yes,
because of the connection, right? There's the connection with this movie.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that was a really fun. I mean, it's it's a B movie, but it's great. I love it.
I adore. I've seen it probably 30 times. I adore it, and I'm a John Carpenter nut, so I'd see it anytime. It won't be a new watch for me. You've seen it, right, Matthew?
I saw it once when it came out, so it'll be an almost new watch for me.
Well, if you don't mind, then it's not a new watch for me.
It's up to you. I don't want to
make it. Are you kidding me? I own it. I will watch it.
All right, great. Then
adore it.
Then that's what we'll be doing next week.
I have an Escape from New York line. The very last thing in the movie when Centauri comes back to life, and I go, Centauri! I thought you were dead.
Wait, that's your line?
That was my line. Centauri! I thought you were dead. And I said that, and I can't remember if it was written or I just said to Nick, can I say that? Because that's what they say to Snake Plissken every time they see him. Plissken!
That's right.
Oh, that's great.
So that wasn't a Castle line. That was you riffing.
I can't remember. Well, I mean, the movie had already been made. Nick had written that early on.
Oh, sure.
or maybe John wrote that line. I'm not sure, but I just remember saying it, and it was like, oh man, I got it. It's got to be like an Escape from New York reference. I got to do it.
It's a moment.
Yeah,
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Good to see you guys.
A ball to have you on, and I owe you I owe you both a bottle of booze.
I don't even drink, so it's like.
Oh, all right. Well,
I'll take Seth.
Booze. My wife is she likes that clear liquor stuff.
All right, then in June when I'm back out in LA, you got a bottle coming to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I don't make wine anymore, so I have no wine.
That's no worries. All right.
Had to give it up.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll see you in a week and a half.
Great.
Talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, guys. See ya.
Good night. Yeah.